The whooping cranes call to each other as they arrive. This is the end of a perilous 2,500-mile journey from Canada. They begin arriving in late fall, just as their ancestors have for thousands of years. As they fly in, they see an inviting coastal prairie with its salt marshes, tidal flats, and freshwater wetlands. And they recognize their winter home. That includes Aransas National Wildlife Refuge, a sanctuary for nature. Each splashdown on the refuge is a small miracle. These birds are part of the last natural flock of migratory whooping cranes in the world. Due to shooting, egg collection, and habitat loss, the whooping crane population dwindled to only 15 birds by the 1940s, making them one of the most endangered species on Earth. Today, the flock is approaching 300 birds. The species is still endangered and must be managed carefully, but it is making strides in the right direction. The 5-foot-tall cranes stay until spring, when they return north to Canada to breed. The coastal marsh that sustains the flock is almost as rare as the cranes themselves. Aransas Refuge was established in 1937 to protect this habitat for migratory birds and other diverse wildlife species that use it. This refuge is part of the National Wildlife Refuge system, which was established by President Theodore Roosevelt in 1903. The refuge system is managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, a federal agency whose mission, working with others, is to conserve fish and wildlife in their habitats. There are now more than 550 refuges, protecting over 150 million acres. They provide habitat for threatened and endangered species and stopover spots for millions of migratory birds. Aransas is located on the central Gulf Coast of Texas and is comprised of 5 units. The Matagorda Island Unit is the largest and lies next to the Gulf of Mexico, about 5 miles from the mainland. It's a narrow 38-mile-long barrier island. The whole refuge protects over 115,000 acres. Over 400 species of birds use the refuge, making it a birdwatcher's delight. In winter, thousands of ducks and geese utilize wetlands as feeding and resting areas. Spring brings the neotropical migrants. Like the cranes, they are long-distance travelers. These colorful songbirds and hummingbirds winter in Central America, then fly north to breed. They arrive on the refuge, exhausted by the long flight across the Gulf of Mexico. Here, they will rest and feed before traveling on. Refuges like this along migration routes are vital to the survival of these amazing birds. They'll return in the fall to rest and refuel before continuing their southerly migration. There are also many resident bird species on the refuge. The salt marshes and bays offer wading birds and shorebirds a rich diet of crabs and other marine life. Found year-round on the refuge, roseate spoonbills stand out from the crowd with their hot pink feathers. Look for them as they sweep their spatulate bills from side to side and snap up small fishes and crustaceans. Over 15 bird species that use the refuge are threatened or endangered like the cranes. Among them is the endangered Aplomado falcon. Aransas has been part of a breeding program designed to increase the Aplomado population. Falcons have been released on the refuge and in recent years have nested and produced young. Protecting endangered species and their habitats is proving successful in several cases, such as brown pelicans and American alligators. More than 600 alligators live on the refuge. Up to 14 feet long and 400 pounds, these impressive reptiles can be seen cruising the freshwater ponds and marshes, or warming up on a sunny bank. Alligators can move surprisingly quickly on land and should never be approached. The alligators share the refuge with over 50 other reptile species, including turtles and snakes. Many mammal species also live here. Among them is the javelina, which is distantly related to antelope and bison, but looks more like a pig. People often mistake javelinas for feral hogs, which are also common here. You can recognize a hog by its bristly back, floppy ears, and straight tail. The feral hogs are descended from domestic pigs that mated with European boars, originally imported for a local exotic game ranch. The hogs present a management challenge. They forage aggressively, rooting up soil and plants, and compete with native wildlife for food. This damage is worsened because they can have several large litters each year. To control their numbers and impact on the habitat, hog hunting is permitted during annual deer hunts. Hunting is one of the many strategies used to manage the refuge. Prescribed burning is another. Prescribed burns are set to minimize the spread of brush and other invasive species. This mimics the naturally occurring historic wildfires and helps restore the coastal prairie habitat. Many wildlife species benefit from the new grasslands. Raptors can spot their prey more easily in the open areas. And whooping cranes enjoy a special delicacy after the fires: roasted acorns. The grasslands are part of a mosaic of habitats on the refuge. Habitats sustain the wildlife and plants and offer visitors a range of wildlife-related activities. At Aransas, a 16-mile driving loop gives a good overview of the varied ecosystems. A more intimate view is provided by the 7 walking trails on the refuge, where visitors can see wildlife ranging from butterflies to bitterns. The 1.5-mile-long Heron Flats Trail offers close-up views of freshwater marshes where alligators and many bird species can be seen. It also passes through 3 forested shell ridges formed when prehistoric storms deposited oyster shells into elongated mounds. This habitat is now home to more than 150 plant species. As its name promises, the trail offers views of herons and other wading birds feeding in the tidal flats. The Big Tree Trail winds through a forest of 500-year-old coastal live oaks. Continual prevailing winds have twisted their branches into unusual shapes. The best times to view wildlife are early and late in the day, when many species are more active. Whenever you go, watch wildlife quietly and keep a respectful distance. Stay on the trails and remember that feeding wildlife is dangerous. Visitors can learn more about the wildlife and plants by joining one of the refuge's interpretive tours or programs.
Matagorda Island,
The refuge provides endless inspiration for photographers. Matagorda Island's scenic windswept views are accessible by private boat. The island's cast-iron lighthouse was built in 1852 after a series of shipping disasters. In 1872, it was moved 2 miles inland to its present location and was most recently relit in 2000, with restoration soon following. There are also Civil War trenches, the only traces of an 1863 skirmish in which Union forces took control of the island to cut off Confederate supply lines. Saltwater fishing is another popular sport here. Pier, bank, and wade fishing in the bays are available from the refuge. During the winter, restrictions are imposed to avoid disturbing the cranes. In addition to recreational activities, the refuge welcomes volunteers who want to work on biological, visitor services, or maintenance projects. Information about the volunteer program is available at the Visitor Center. For humans and whooping cranes alike, Aransas is a very special place. The refuge offers tranquility and beauty, a chance for intimate encounters with nature, a sanctuary for wildlife and for us.